Hello everybody and welcome back to Brilliant Shadows. Ash glared from across the courtyard. Since the oddly intimate and brief conversation in the hot spring, the female guard, an Elena, according to other guards she had asked, had spoken barely a word. In fact, the guards seemed to be avoiding her. Every chance Ash had found to speak with her again had ended with a quick retreat on the part of the soldier. It had become irksome. Ash was about to finally get her chance. She was on duty, one of the few posts that permitted a single guard, and with the shift change about to end, Ash would finally catch her alone. Watching the other guard bid Ella farewell, Ash smiled and strode out from the pillar behind which she had lay in wait. Immediately, panic struck the woman's face. This look was cute on her.
Hello again, Elena.
Yes. Hello, Lady Ashmar. How might I serve you today, my lady?
I was just passing through and wanted to say hello. Try to keep in touch with friends, you know?
The guard grimaced.
We've barely spoken, ma'am. Hardly counts as a friendship.
Maybe Ash had misread her, but well, there had been something there. Hadn't there been a moment of tension? Elena cleared her throat.
Ma'am, you'll have to excuse me for speaking so bold, but I know where your interests lie, and even if I didn't take issue with the idea of a lord or lady using their position to curry sexual favors from those who serve them, I like men.
Woof.
What?
Oh, I'm sorry, did I thought...
Oh.
The
guard looked terrified now.
I would never use my position to force someone to have sex with me. I am so sorry. There was a moment when we were speaking, I thought that we had a connection.
In the 5 words I spoke.
5 words was a bit of an under-exaggeration, wasn't it?
No, you're right.
I knew it.
I just wanted to speak with you, get a read. I repeat, never do something like that. I'm actually glad you were able to straighten me out.
Ash paused. I knew it! I knew it! That's not that person. There's someone going around acting like other people, and I bet it's her partner because she said it felt like home. She feels comfortable. It was the cook at first, and that's why he said he didn't burn anything, and that's why she felt like home. And then it was her in the tub, because it was her. I knew it. This gotta be it.
Figuratively speaking.
Sorry about that, miss.
Ash saw her blush and for a moment imagined her in the bath again. A knot twisted in her stomach.
It must be awful. There's already a lack of girls to meet around the palace grounds. Some of the other guards complain about it. To think you'd have to find a girl, and then find one who likes girls.
Elena gave her a sympathetic smile.
Of course, I would never want to have a relationship with someone from where I worked.
Ash attempted to smile, but the knot in her stomach grew tighter. Twice. She had done it twice. Well, at least she hadn't kissed the girl this time.
Are you well, Lady Ashmar?
I'm fine. I'm just terribly embarrassed.
If it makes you feel any better, I am too. I shouldn't have accused you of something like that. I haven't met a lord or lady who has ever tried it. It's just a fear I have.
Believe me, it's a valid fear. More than one diplomat has propositioned me while Prude and I were visiting from the mountain. Just remember they cannot actually force you, and should they try, remember you're the one with the spear.
Elena smiled, and inside Ash cried. She really had a lovely smile. On the outside, Ash gave a beaming grin.
Light and shadows, I need to get some food in me. Somehow I hadn't realized how hungry I was, if you'll excuse me.
Of course, Lady Ashmar. You have a good evening.
With a curt nod, Ash walked away. Tears blurred her vision, and so it was with a start that she noticed a figure walking beside her a minute later.
That had to hurt. Do you want to make Ashley make us ice cream and cookies and gorge ourselves while reading romance novels? The King's collection is surprisingly phenomenal.
Okay, so Swan is Ashley. Because that's the second time they've mentioned someone named Ashley, but this time, the previous time they said Swan, whatever, you get what I'm saying. So Swan must be Ashley. Ash turned to Belinda.
Where did you come from?
I've been following you.
For how long?
All day. Sneaking is surprisingly easy if you stay far enough back.
Why?
Hector says I need to start practicing more physical training, and he says that stealth is essential for a good mage.
Belinda squared her shoulders and took on a serious expression.
At the moment, your magic is remedial, so in a fight, your best bet would be to get the drop on someone. I want you to choose someone and follow them around for the day. At the end of the day, ask if they ever noticed you. Roar, roar, I'm so grumpy, Hector. No, 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 no.
That sounds like something Hector would say.
Yeah. I wish you would just give me a break.
I believe you were the one who started calling yourself his apprentice.
I know, but the light and shadows, I just want a break before I break.
Where are we walking, anyway?
Oh, I don't know. I changed my mind about the ice cream. I'm trying to lose some weight. I think it will make the laps Hector has me running a little less painful.
I was kind of hoping to find a bit of cold comfort.
Well, I know what can help you there. There's nothing else quite as comforting as knowing someone else is suffering with you. Let me tell you about when I confessed to Elfnod.
Oh, God.
Oh no, please don't. This is going to hurt, isn't it?
It's too late! We are cursed to love those who are not even possessed of the same sexuality. We are bonded. Our stories must be shared. Let's go. It all began a week ago.
My God.
Elfnod and I had been getting incredibly close recently. We have been practicing our magic together, and for a time, he was even training me with a blade.
Before you asked me to join you, right?
Yes. Now, after one hot and sweaty day of practice, we both found ourselves in a changing room, and with a nonchalance that took my breath away, Elfnod stripped up his armor and shirt.
Belinda cooed to herself.
Let's just say I fibbed a bit. It wasn't a nonchalance that took my breath away. He was just...
Belinda paused, looking for the word. Oh no, he's hot! Although we knew this.
He left me speechless. So it was much appreciated when he broke to silence. He turned to me, his eyes narrow, blinking away sweat as it dripped down his bare body. And he asked me, that was a hard workout today, wasn't it?
I need you to calm down. This is getting intense.
It was then that I knew I had to tell him.
Uh-huh.
I rushed forward, pressing myself against his slick chest, and looked up into his dazzling eyes.
My God.
I told him,
Elfnod.
Elfnod, I think you know by now how I feel about you. I've felt this way since the day we were paired. I felt it in my heart, in my bones, in my very soul. We're destined to be together, Elfnod.
And how did that go?
And I told him, I love you.
Oh, it hurts.
Oh, twisting shadows and blinding light, you didn't.
I did. My confession jumped straight to love.
Whoa.
I swear his eyes nearly bugged out of his skull. For a moment, he looked like one of those dogs, the ones that look like someone smashed their face in.
A pug?
Yeah, he just stared at me with his pug face. Then, slowly, he stepped back, still holding my hands. And he says, slowly, calmly, clearly, Belinda, I'm gay. I don't know which hurt worse, the rejection or the embarrassment. Fortunately, I didn't have long to consider it. Because of my rather unstable emotional state, I tried to escape. Only tears blinded me, and instead of charging out of the room, I charged headlong into the half-open door.
Were you alright?
I had a concussion, apparently, but Elfnod had no trouble healing it. He's pretty incredible. That's part of why I fell for him so hard.
Ash reached out and put her arm around Belinda's shoulder, pulling her into a hug.
I'm so sorry that happened.
I've already moved past it.
Still, yikes.
Hey, at least you got your mind off your rejection.
Not now, you brought it back up. The memory of her most recent misfortune returned in a wave to Ash's mind. Ash felt her face twist into a grimace.
Oops.
Yeah, buddy. For a moment, the two stood in silence, shoulders sunk.
Ice cream?
Ice cream.
Ice cream. With that, they were off to the kitchen, hoping they would find fresh cream and sufficient ice. All right, well, woof. I mean, look, you know, it went about as well as it could have, and they're okay. I mean, like, that's good. The letter took the messenger hawk a day. The reply was succinct. We shall leave on the morrow. We have a great deal of interest in this gray mage, both his origin and his abilities. A week passed before the heads actually arrived. Though apparently hurried, they took their time approaching the palace, ensuring they had lodgings and then having their horses properly stabled before even beginning the approach.
Are you ready?
Prude gave her a somber nod. Hector patted at his pocket full of black roses and nodded. Ash's own pockets were full as well. She didn't really know why, but they were a comfort.
This idea still terrifies me.
It'll be fine.
I know my curiosity can only go so much longer without being sated.
Prude pulled Hector in close and the two kissed.
We'll get you back, okay?
Hector nodded and Prude stepped into one of the rooms immediately to the side of the court, hiding behind layers of curtains.
They're coming.
I thought you didn't want to use this form of communication anymore.
Yeah, but your messenger bird is dumb and they're
Closing in on her.
Have you decided to do anything about it?
I don't know yet. I don't know what side they're on in this fight.
Not yet.
You'd better make your decision quickly. The cultists are closing in. I can sense them.
Don't you have
Any advice?
No, I'm done. I don't do this anymore. Too many mistakes.
Please.
Just trust your heart. It's one of the only good ones I know anymore.
Ash's mind fell silent save for her own thoughts. Before she had a chance to collect them, Zachariah opened the door, leading the way for Luciana and an enormous cloaked figure. One of her golems, likely, a good form of protection on a long road. The gray mages were closing in, if the voices could be believed. That would be rather convenient, and besides, it provided some sense of their motivation if they were about to attack now.
It's good to see you again, all of you. I'm sorry for how things ended last time, but I am afraid the rules are rules.
We understand.
Why is Mr. Warlock in chains?
Did you bring the Rod of Finding?
Luciana's face turned to a mask of shock while Zachariah's only grew harder.
Prudence?
Grew harder.
Please, the rod.
Zachariah removed the rod from a sheath at her hip. The rod burst to life almost immediately. Zachariah had apparently already performed the spell. She waved it before her eyes and sneered. 2 black dots for Ash and Belinda, a white dot for Alfnod, and a modded shimmering gray wad where Hector stood.
You always were a monster, weren't you, Warlock?
This is why we asked you here. We believe there are more. Please, I beseech you, use the rod on the rest of the city and aid us in ferreting out the remaining assassins.
Before we do that, please, have your guards leave, and then lock the doors. What we are about to discuss cannot be overheard.
I don't trust you.
We have my golem to protect us in an emergency. Guards will be of little consequence to a gray mage anyway.
No. The king beckoned to her guards and they did as commanded. No, this is a trap! As the latches sounded, Luciana seemed to breathe a sigh of relief.
I admit, I had heard rumors of a couple intending to produce a child gray mage. But that was so many years ago, and no member of either order ever produced reports of such. I had simply assumed such attempts had bore no fruit. To think I had such a creature under my tutelage for so long, and yet I cannot help but wonder at the purpose of this farce.
How did you know that Hector did not kill my daughter?
Luciana raised her hand and tapped her mark.
You forgot to cover the boy's hand.
Hector flushed as he looked down to the exposed spider.
But gray mages don't lose their mark when they eat another's organs.
No, but the mark changes.
Some might say it corrupts.
How do you know so much?
We are the heads of the orders. We would be remiss if there were any parts of magic we were not well versed in.
Luciana laughed.
It's the primary reason Zachariah was so often at odds with Mr. Warlock.
Fine, you know it was a sham to bring you here. We need your help to find the Grey Mages who are hunting us. We think they're after Ash. We think she may be paired to one. That, or they may be after me.
That's awful presumptuous of you.
What?
No. They were after Prudence and the king.
Luciana, how do you know of this?
Because, my dearest niece, we hired them.
Luciana tore the cloak from the golem at her side. The golem was unlike anything Ash had ever seen before. It was wood.
I cannot thank you enough for all your research. I had never imagined how much more effective a golem crafted from wood could be until I saw your research into plants. I haven't quite gotten reanimation of plants down, but, well, golems were a simple matter for me, and startlingly effective. Now that we have the doors locked and all the main players trapped in here with us.
What? We're gonna fuck you up. You're outnumbered. Luciana extended her arm, sickly green energy coiling around each finger.
Golem, kill.
It's a wood golem. We're necromancers. The creature closed the distance to Hector in a moment, and Ash heard a wet snapping noise as he flew like a ragdoll across the room. Alfnod did not even have the chance to draw his sword as another blow left him bent awkwardly around a pillar. Belinda, right beside him, leapt desperately out of the way of a stomp. Zachariah began to slowly, almost gleefully draw her blade, marching towards the king. Prude was upon her in the blink of an eye, leaping from the side of the room, arm flashing as she drove it straight towards Zachariah's face.
We're related! Let me guess. That white spiked monstrosity on top of your head used to be red?
Zachariah sneered. Ash became aware that she had been standing, stunned. She had to help. Turning to Luciana, she curled a finger and then arched a curse at the head mage. Luciana barely moved as the curse dissolved mid-flight. Ash twined a bolt of Ash twined a bolt of malignant's broiled green necrotic energy and unleashed the wave of rot towards Luciana. The head dissolved it with a single breath. The curse that struck Ash came quick and sudden. She felt her fingers bend and curled awkwardly, the bones contorting. Ash could only barely stifle a scream as she clawed desperately at that distant ball of whiteness, the same she had called upon to empower her reanimation spells. The grip felt almost tangible as she found it. The pain seemed to fade slightly, and then she looked up to meet the gaze of not Luciana, but her golem. The creature raised an enormous fist high above its head, and Ash reached deeper. Inside her swirled the magics of a pair, black and white, intermingling wildly. She slammed her open palms down upon the creature's foot and felt the sap inside it begin to flow. Scars left by the woodsman's axe began to close, the ebony ichor rending its way across open wounds, clotting them shut. New growths burst wildly until, arching across the creature's back, a bloom of midnight leaves began to unfurl. The white-hot green of its eyes faded to a dull gray and then to a light black. The creature opened its hands as though seeing it for the first time. It turned to examine its entirety, its leaves seeming to swell as it breathed.
What did you do?
I necromanced. Ash found her feet beneath her and forced herself to stand.
I took your golem.
Yeah!
I don't need it to defeat you!
Yeah, but now it's gonna beat the shit out of you. Ash felt the curse strike like a blow to the head and then 1,000 more. It hammered with a fury that blinded her. She fell to her knees. Somewhere in the distance, she could hear the woman's footsteps click as she came closer.
Dirty little girl! I will find the secret to your magic, and I will ensure that history will write its origin as me. My discovery will change necromancy as we know it. Fortunate victim of an assassination.
Pain struck Ash, pinpricks in her hand, an afterthought to the hammering in her skull. Opening her eyes, she pulled forth a black rose. She gasped, pain lashed at her thoughts, catching the sweet scent of the dead rose. Ash felt it burn inside her long before she knew what to do with it. She reached up, desperately clawing the air, arching her hand back toward the head as the woman snarled, bearing down on her. Then the air rippled and shadow cast across reality, and in a bloom of darkness, Luciana fell. The pain stopped immediately, and Luciana writhed on the floor. Ash couldn't even tell how much of her was missing, but somehow the head still lived. Ash forced herself to her knees. Alfnod and Belinda were still out, though Belinda had dragged herself to Alfnod and seemed to be trying to soothe him back to awareness. At least they weren't dead. Hector was motionless, even his chest did not rise. Where was Prude? Ash searched the courtroom. On the far side of the courtroom, Zachariah had let go of her sword and the tip of the blade buried deep into the wall. The length held a motionless King Celeste and Prude writhing wildly. Pierced through the left of her chest, she gasped for breath, blood pouring from between her lips, magic desperately trying to seal the wound.
Prudence!
The sword belongs to one of the gray mages we hired, you know. Luciana was smart enough to convince me not to bring.
Zachariah stopped mid-sentence, turning back to see Luciana on the ground, almost half of her body seared away.
No.
Zachariah charged towards her love, dropping to her knees, tears in her eyes.
No. Nothing was worth losing you, my love. No kingdom was worth this price.
Zachariah began to blaze with violent white light pouring into the charcoal that remained of the most grievous of her wife's wounds.
Come back. Come back.
Zachariah pressed her head against Luciana's chest and closed her teary eyes, smiling.
She's breathing. She has a pulse. After all this, I will heal her. She may lose an arm, even her legs, but she will never lose me.
Zachariah slowly placed a kiss on the lips of her unconscious lover and stood up, holding 3 stones, remnants of debris.
3 of you left.
Alfnod had finally opened his eyes, and Belinda stared into them, smiling. Her expression suddenly turned blank as a small piece of debris hit the wall behind her. Alfnod looked confused until blood began to pour from a gaping hole in her chest where her heart should be. She collapsed. After another rock ricocheted wildly as it detonated Alfnod's shield.
You've been practicing.
Ash pulled free from a fistful of black roses, and drawing in her breath of the violent fragrance, she let forth another gout of black flames. The inky black washed over Zachariah like water over glass.
Interesting trick.
Golem, stop her!
Ash's voice cracked as she shouted, but the creature seemed to hear, closing in on Zachariah and swinging with all its might. Zachariah met the punch head-on, swinging with all her strength. The wood splintered as she grabbed an arm and tore it free. A kick brought the beast low, and a third strike left it motionless.
Hector never really realized how much power we truly wielded as heads, and yet he dismissed us so easily, as though he always had some trick up his sleeve, a trump card.
Zachariah hefted the enormous beast above her head, and with a motion as quick as an afterthought sent it crashing into the forms of Alfnod and Belinda.
Tell me, Miss Veronica Ashmar, do you have a trump card?
Ash reached into her pocket. No flowers remained. She tried to draw upon the wells once more, but no spell she could think of seemed enough. In desperation, she threw her strongest curse. Zachariah took it head-on, but no hammering pain struck her, no twisting of joints, no boiling of blood, no searing pain, nor virulent decay. She merely stood.
I wish I could make your death slow. Let you know exactly how angry I am. But I can only imagine it will be a few more moments before those doors open. Can you hear the ringing in your ears over the pain that you feel right now? You're likely so numb. It wouldn't be worth my time to torture you anyway. Goodbye, Ash.
The blade blossomed through Zachariah's throat and ripped outward, spraying Ash with a rain of blood. Zachariah fell to her knees and slumped to the floor. The figure in the gray cloak walked over to Luciana and sliced open her throat. Blood loss would kill them both in seconds. The cloak was familiar, pale gray, reminiscent of... Suddenly it clicked. The figure following them in the rain. The figure she rode past in the snow. This was the Gray Mage. The assassin approached her and reached out their hand. There was a phoenix mark.
You need to save your friends.
Momentarily stunned, Ash struggled to find her response.
How? Aren't you the paladin in our pairing? I felt that power.
Ash gestured towards her mark.
What? No, I don't have any powers like that. Spiraling stars, girl. Use the white magic you were using earlier with the plant.
What? I don't know how to do that.
I do.
Hector had finally stirred. The deathly twist in his back seemed to have straightened, but his legs were still broken, bent sharply in the wrong direction at each femur.
Please bring Prude and her mother to me. Get them off that sword.
Ash found them both unmoving and tried to pull the sword free. It remained stuck. The man in the cloak pushed her aside and tore it free with a practiced ease that made Zachariah's earlier strength seem that of a child. Tossing the sword aside, he hefted both bodies and brought them to Hector. Hector checked the king first and flinched, moving wordlessly to Prude.
She can still live.
How? You haven't used your light magic since you were a child. Even Zachariah couldn't heal a wound like that.
I have a plan.
Then why not the king?
She is more broken than I can repair.
Please! Help!
Ash and the cloaked man turned to the rabble of the golem and the pillar that had collapsed on it.
Get him out of there.
Ash staggered back to her feet and rushed to the rubble. Between her and the man, the rubble was gone in moments. Beneath, Alfnod barely held together a shield protecting himself and the lifeless, wide-eyed body of Belinda.
Please. Help her.
Beneath the hood, the man grimaced. Ignoring the clear lack of acceptance of the grim fate of Alfnod's pair, the man scooped up her body, his hood finally falling back. Ash gasped as the cooking boy carried the body to Hector. The sight was almost enough to distract her from Hector himself. In Hector's hand was a beating heart. A pale white glow pulsed in its depths, its arteries and veins, and what appeared to be a number of organs snaked wildly around as it forced into Prude's chest. The tendrils flailed for a moment before burrowing into her body and dragging the heart into place. The sight sickened her, and she turned her disgust to Hector. It was then that Ash noticed the gaping wound in Hector's own chest.
Please, save her.
Alfnod was near delirious himself, clearly at least in shock, if not critically injured. He screamed one more time and seemed to fall asleep. Hector grimaced and forced his hand back in his chest. He did not scream, but as she watched, Ash could hear Tesh flesh tearing. The second heart writhed, but it seemed to lack the life of the first.
Put this in her chest.
The cook nodded and emulated the action Hector had taken with the first. The dark thing settled into Belinda's chest like an animal in a den. Hector closed his eyes and placed a hand over the wound in his chest. Why hadn't the doors opened? Surely the guard should have arrived by now. She could hear the pounding now. Turning, she found the metal rent, twisting the doors together, sealing them shut.
I can't be caught here. Not if I have any hope of stopping the cultists.
The cultists?
The Grey Mages are still coming. You said in your message.
Ash surveyed the carnage.
We're not ready.
No, not the Grey Mages. The Knights of the Blade.
Who?
The boy gestured at the two heads.
I don't have time for that right now. I have to leave.
Please, just tell me who you are. We're paired. That means something, you know.
I'm starting to realize that. But we're about to have company. Take care. We'll meet again.
Please, at least tell me why I wasn't paired to a girl.
That was an odd question, but it had bothered her more than she had cared to admit.
Well, I actually am a gal.
Oh? A hand passed over the boy's face and revealed a face almost as alien as it was beautiful. Black skin like blue ebony and long flowing locks of hair as white as the purest snow. She had the eyes that shone like polished jade and her lips stained a dark red peeled back to reveal perfect teeth save for canines, just a shade too long to be human. She twitched her ears, roughly 7 inches long, and leaned in close. Ash smelled fire and cinnamon on her. She was the most beautiful person Ash had ever seen.
My name is Tara, but try to keep calling me Cooking Boy, and do your best to keep the whole changeling thing a secret.
She's a changeling. I love changelings. Changelings are cool as fuck. Oh my god.
Also, I was right. Without another word, she changed back and with a single backflip disappeared through the second-story window she had apparently broken to get in. The door gave way, and guards rushed in. Court medicians rushed alongside them. The scene was consumed around her, and all parties involved received attention. A voice asked her again and again if she was okay. She couldn't have said who asked.
I'm fine.
It was all she could manage. Her heart was beating too loud to hear her own thoughts. What? I got ending 1. Ash found Prude in the front of the courtyard. She heard her whisper something faintly.
She's gone.
Prude hastily wiped at her eyes.
Oh, hey, Ash.
She took a seat, settling in by her.
You okay?
No.
The clarity with which she said the word hit Ash like a brick. Prude turned to Ash, wiping away tears with the back of her bare right hand. The sight struck a chord deep inside Ash, and she held back her own tears.
I had 22 years to learn about my kingdom, but I didn't. I spent the entire time focusing on magic, on my life. I spent the entire time assuming that one day, when I had graduated, I would have time. Time as a court mage, under my mom's careful tutelage. Time to learn everything I need to know about being a king. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing.
Prude gestured back to the throne room.
Before today, I'd always known of inhuman races. But before now, I couldn't have imagined that I would meet them. They're supposed to be rare. Secreted away in a corner of the world so distant that Celeste would never have been expected to entertain their ambassadors.
Tears glittered in the corners of Prude's eyes.
They are asking us for aid. Armies, trades, goods, anything we can spare. I don't even know what we can spare, let alone if I should. I wasted so much time.
Oh, no, Prude, it's not wasted.
Prude swung up her arm like the lash of a whip.
My pair is gone. My partner is in a coma. I can barely draw any of the light I once could. I have the power of a novice at best. I have nothing to show for having spent years learning and neglecting my kingdom.
Her eyes were red from the tears.
Prude, you need to take a break. For now, leave the diplomats to one of your court mages.
Ash kissed Prude on the forehead and held her close.
Go get some sleep.
Prude did not argue. I was gonna end the episode, but like there's too much happening. Should I? I don't know. Is this gonna be a whatever? You know what? We're going till the end. We're going till the end, folks. Ash let out a long sigh and marched into the courtyard. They had yet to complete restorations on the throne room where the court was normally held, so Prude had taken to holding court in the garden directly out front. Her breath caught in her throat as her gaze was met by the sharp eyes of a pair of enormous lizards. The rumors about them had certainly been strange. They seemed to stand at attention as she arrived, both forcing smiles across their two human visages.
Oh, Barakanaga, hail and well met, my lady. May I ask where your king has gone?
The tiny creature spoke while the larger stood silent.
She is unwell and has been forced to adjourn court.
I see. Wish her well for me.
The lizard shot his companion a wary glance, and the companion returned it.
Might we treat with you, perhaps?
I am able to speak on my king's behalf, though any accords must be ratified by her.
Excellent! Then I shall surmise you of the situation.
The larger of the two slapped down a huge gem, which the smaller one then mounted wordlessly.
You see, my kingdom is under siege, and we are desperate for aid. We have many fine goods, rare grains and bugs, delicious and succulent fruits, and we also have the marvelous arcangineering.
Arcangineering? Is that a form of magic?
More or less, something like that. But we understand that you greatly enjoy eating, food specifically.
They are A delight on your tongue, mammal.
The second creature had spoken as though from a script, the smaller silencing him as he had attempted to call her a what? A mammal? Well, she had been thinking of these two as lizards. She wished she could help these creatures. They certainly looked desperate, but she knew the kingdom had no army of significance enough to march on a location so distant. And they really had offered very little in terms of compensation. Food and some false form of magic? The food would spoil, and without time or an expert to research the realistic applications of the arcangineering, it would be a costly gamble.
I'm afraid we are unable to offer you aid at this time. Our kingdom is in a time of unrest. We cannot offer troops to a new ally before we can even find the earth beneath our feet.
The little creature looked crestfallen.
I see. I am sorry to hear that.
Mama Lady Colas ally. Negotiations quicker than expected. We are allies now.
The smaller of the pair suddenly perked up. His eyes gleamed like polished gems as he met Ash's gaze.
Yes, I suppose an alliance can certainly begin between us.
With a flourish like that of a street magician, the smaller lizard produced a volume of paper. This struck fear into Ash as though he had produced the very weapon that had slain the previous king.
We must discuss terms!
Trade agreements, import and export taxes, tariffs.
Immigration accords!
We need know what kingdom's alliance with you restricts us from treating with.
We don't want to put a tiger and a lion in a box, am I right?
Tiger, what?
Of course.
Croc, would you be a dear and go make us some trimethylxanthine? This is going to take a while.
Yes, Mox.
With a bow, the large beast set down his enormous pack and gathered a bag of overflowing with a dirt-like powder. He sniffed the air and began marching towards the kitchen.
Okay, now. Oh, and sorry to start off on a touchy subject, but how do your people feel about the terminal period of egg adoption?
It was going to be a long night. What exactly was trimethylxanthine anyway? What's happening? Also, how are we going to get to the end of this? I keep thinking I should stop, but I don't know. A cool breeze washed over her, making Ash shiver. Laying out on the grass during the winter was less than an optimal situation, but the now living golem had refused to leave her side and she needed the fresh air. She held a black rose in front of her and slowly breathed in its scent. No power came. How had she done it before? For that matter, where had the light come from? It still came when she called it. She had no issues performing reincantation. Was she somehow a gray mage too? The woman had said she was no paladin. The woman, goddess, but she was beautiful. Ash sighed. The familiar clack of a cane and a shuffle of feet sounded her to the arrival of Alfnod and Belinda. She opened her eyes to see the pair, arms entwined. Belinda stood tall. She had survived the incidents with nothing more than a fierce scar right over the heart. Alfnod had not fared as well. His leg had been crushed, and though with Prudence's help it had begun to heal, it was still months from being able to be used without support. Somehow I clicked out of the game. We're good.
Don't mind us, Ash. I know you're wanting your quiet time.
We're just getting Elfnod out for his daily walk.
It's fine.
Well, I say you needn't mind us, but you may want to pay mind to Prudence. She is, not doing so well.
Alfnod did not seem to say why. Hector still had not woken up from his coma. A week had passed since he had given up his hearts. Prude and Belinda had recovered within the day. Alfnod was still recuperating, but Hector hadn't opened his eyes since he had last closed them. The Rod of Finding found Hector empty of magic, and though Prude had poured everything she had into healing him, he was motionless save for a single beating heart and his breathing.
I'll go to see her.
Ash sat up and stared into the black marble eyes of her golem.
You know, I still haven't quite figured out how I made you.
The creature cocked its head and scratched at the ground where its arm was slowly regenerating. Ash walked inside through the shattered courtroom and the workers toiling away at its restoration, a coup at their head, and her contract extended indefinitely amidst the chaos past the guards and outside the courtroom. Prude sat, looking as regal as had ever the old king, listening patiently as her commerce ministers brought her news of taxes and trade. Ash knew Prude enough to know she wouldn't listen with all this diligence, but she had never expected to find herself in this seat so early. She wasn't prepared.
I am sorry to interrupt Lord Marlock, Lord Gakor, but there has been an important discovery made of the magical nature. I'm afraid something like this cannot wait. Thank you.
Prude gave each of them nods that only could be described as regal and followed Ash back inside. The two advisors merely dipped their heads and exited the room. She maintained the air of utter dignity all the way back to the hallway outside of her room, where it dissolved with a long exhalation of breath.
Thank you for that. I wasn't doing too well today.
I heard.
Belinda, ever since she got Hector's heart, she seems to always know what I'm feeling.
Well, actually, it was Elfnod who said it, and anyone who knows you well enough can see it on your face. I imagine that's why Lord Marlock and Lord Gakor were so willing to let you step away.
I'm not doing so well with this whole king thing.
You're doing fine. Better than leaving your kingdom unstable. Do you want to go see Hector?
Prude looked ashamed, but then nodded. The two exited the room and began the long march to the magician's quarters where Hector lay sleeping. Or at least, he should have been. Instead, he stood as fresh as the day he and Prude had been paired, examining a silver sword while a figure stood beside him in a gray cloak. His eyes darted up to meet Prude's. She burst into tears and threw herself upon the man, knocking him back to the floor and smothering him with a kiss. Ash heard the man grunt from the excess of activity as she held him down. Jade's eyes peered out from a cascade of white hair around an ebon face.
We need help.
Then a second voice came. The other one from the conversation in her head spoke, apparently coming through the sword.
We have to save the world!
What? Pardon me? Epilogue? Thought that was the epilogue. What's this then? Ash rested her arm across her face. She did not need to cover her eyes. There was no sun to block out, only an endless sea of stars. And yet the light blinded her. It burned in her chest, beating in her heart right beside that familiar darkness. Today she had learned that her pair was no paladin, that she was something else. Neither Terra nor the sword had been entirely clear on exactly what Terra was. That meant that the glowing ember of light was her own. She was a gray mage, possessed of duality, only with a single heart beating in her chest. How is this possible? Everything she knew of the magic was suddenly called into question. How much of what she had learned over the last 14 years was wrong? If one did not need to be paired to another to draw upon the opposite well of power, not to mention the fact that in Terra, in the sword, and in the apparent abilities of witches, there were so many wells of powers that she had never even known about until now. How many would she tap into before it was all over? A crunch snapped her back to reality, and she started to a sitting position. A slender figure in a cloak as black as the shadows around it approached from the palace. The golem turned slowly to regard her.
Ash.
Terra's voice was oddly familiar for someone she had only met twice before. Well, twice while she looked like that, anyway.
I'm here, under the tree. Golem.
She moved forward with a grace that made her movements difficult to follow. Ash couldn't help but wonder if there was a type of magic, or if perhaps it was simply near supernatural dexterity. Terra came under what would be the shade of the golem's black leaves and lowered her hood, her eyes staring up into the night sky.
It's so beautiful tonight. The sky is so clear and the night so dark. You can see for aeons.
She smiled. She was beautiful. She was a type of beauty Ash had never known, and it captivated her. It reached out and gripped her heart with a stranglehold that choked her words in her throat.
Yeah.
It was the most she could manage.
So tell me, Veronica Ashmar, do you know exactly what this is?
Tara raised a hand and stroked obsidian fingers across the black phoenix that rose across her right hand.
It marks us as a pair. Surely you've picked that much up.
Yes, but besides that, from what I've learned, it allows a necromancer or a paladin to draw upon their partner's power. That gives them access to gray magic. But my magic is very different from the magic of your paladins. There is a chance that our magics will not work together.
To be honest, I'm not sure that's actually how it works anymore.
Oh?
All I am sure of now is that the magic of a pairing creates a powerful, emotional, physical, and spiritual tie between two people. It's no surprise that most pairs become romantically involved.
Yeah, I kind of noticed with your friends.
Yeah.
Ash tried to read Tara's face, still aimed up towards the stars. Was there any reaction to her words? No, her face was a mask of passivity. It would appear the girl had no interest. Tara turned to her, and perhaps it was a trick of the starlight, but her face seemed different, her jaw stronger, her shoulders more wide.
Do you think the same will be true for us?
Was her voice deeper? The figure leaned over, and as Tara moved, Ash saw the lithe form had grown, swollen now with thick muscles. Tara leaned in close, and she smelled almost musky. Ash tried to steady herself, recoiling back and blinking wide eyes. Tara froze, her, or was it his, eyes wide. Suddenly she was standing, form returning to what it had been before.
I'm sorry. I had just thought it was wrong to assume you'd be attracted to a changeling.
Tara made to march away, her grace lost with her pose. Ash closed her hand around Tara's wrist before she even knew what she herself was doing.
No, I was at fault.
You can be whatever you want in this world, but just be yourself.
Ash closed the distance between them, pulling Tara close.
You're beautiful, changeling or no.
I'm gonna fucking cry. Oh my god, this is so cool. This is so cute. This is so sweet. Ash couldn't help herself from smiling, and from the looks of it, neither could Tara. The kiss seemed to grow deeper, their bodies closer. Ash opened her eyes to find herself at eye level with Tara's own.
I don't like kissing up.
And the world dissolved into fireworks. Oh, it's so sweet. Wait, is that the end? Thank you for playing. No, it's the end! Okay, guys. But here's the fun part. This is book 1. Ending 1, Blinded by the Light. Interesting. So I wonder what the other endings could have been. But that's our ending. And thank you for hanging out. Guess what, though? It's only book 1, and there are more, and I really want to play them. I don't know if I'll jump immediately into it, but oh, I loved this. Is there more? Written by Christopher Neo Michael Hall. Art and coding by Saida Geckos Duncan. Music by composer Jonathan Johnson. I knew a Jonathan Johnson. Created using RenPy visual novel engine. Mel Gorsha as Ash, Olivia Brown as Prue, Jill Harris as Tara, Alex Weber as Hector and the Peasant, Jane Redd as Belinda, Damon Mills as Alphon and Croc. I didn't get to the other one. All right, I guess I'll stop trying. You can read them. If you want to see them, you can pause it. Man. Oh, wait. Wait, there was an ending. There was her voice changed in ending 3. Guys, I loved this game. I mean, look, necromancy is a kicker, always. I love necromancy, but I also loved that, like, I don't know. I thought it was beautiful. I like a good love story, too, and, like, I like how they touched on how, like, figuring out, you know, what you want and, like, realizing, you know, how different people are and just, like, having to grow around that. I really liked how I already forgot his name. I think it was Alfnod. Was like, you know, sometimes you just got to move on and be happy with, you know, that closeness that you've got with someone. I don't know. There are a lot of beautiful things. And I don't know. I just really liked it. I really enjoyed this game. So I'm going to let the credits run out. While we're doing that, I just want to thank you for hanging out with me. This was a long series. I mean, it wasn't that long. It was like, what, 17, 18 episodes? This is like an hour-long finale episode. But, like, if you made it all this way, and if you're watching this, you must have either really enjoyed the story or just wanted to hang out with me playing through it. So either way, I really appreciate you sticking around. And please leave a comment below with what you thought about it. And thank you so much to the creators of who made this game. Tara. Oh. Yeah. Oh. There she is.
What?
The blooper
What?
reel. What?
What?
And we can't simply offer you students who aren't prepared and stuff. As long as he can keep up. Hepater! Now I'm just making up names. New characters. Hepater. I don't know what Hepater is. He's kind of weird, though.
What? They have bloopers?
I should not have said that. It was rude of me. It was rude of me, miss. Please forgive me. I don't know why I'm going into this cockney sort of accent. Oh, bloody hell, and here comes a helicopter. What's it doing here? I don't know. This is supposed to be a nice neighborhood.
What?
I will have my revenge against you helicopters, I swear. Perhaps they want in on this audition, on these recordings. Not audition, I've already booked the gig.
Okay, now begin to breathe outwards, drawing on the shadow, but not putting it into something specific. Just reach out with yourself. Reach out with your bad self.
What? What is happening? I love it. Oh my god.
Why, you're adorable. Like a deranged kitten. Meow.
It's not enough that your partner seems to have dedicated his life to finding my pair. Oh my god. What is that noise? Frickin' train. Okay.
Helicopter, helicopter over my head. I choose the color, and the color is red. Like the flames that should engulf your contraption.
Oh god, are you guys gone yet? Come on.
Chocolate!
Just... oh, that's not my line. Ah, whoops.
Chocolate.
Just chocolate. Chocolate. Let's assume I did. Let's assume that then...
If you really cared for the future of Celeste, you wouldn't be... Okay.
Not being the center of attention for once? Well, once. Ah, yes.
Now, as far as... I cannot thank you enough for all of your research. Oh my god. Oh, I just went to be evil and I started choking. Ooh, woo, man. Being evil takes a lot out of you.
Just don't think that's the kind of the demeanor. That's it. I wanted to read that as Dementor. Harry Potter, yay.
How did you know that Hector did not kill my daughter?
Gryffindor!
What?
Look, I know everyone says I don't act like it, but I'm older than you, Heck. Heck, I'm older than Heck. What? Heck, I'm older than Heck. Fudge, I just got that. Fudge. All my life I've been good, but now, whoa, what the heck?
No magic, just simple electricity. The light bottle is something I had crafted for me by a master blast glower. What the heck? Okay. No magic, just simple electricity. The light bottle is something I had crafted for me by a master... I nearly did it again. I nearly did it. So close. Glass blower. Not blast glower. I don't even know what the hell a blast glower is.
Hepator, the blast glower. No, I clicked out of the frame again.
Prudence Celeste, Royal Princess. Okay. The food is ready. I must end this for now.
The end. Oh, this is so sweet. Oh, that's some good thumbnail material right there. Oh, that was the end. Oh my god. All right, I've already said my piece. You heard it all. I wanted to watch the bloopers. They were too good. Again, awesome work. Love the game. I really like what they did with the whole concept of necromancy. I like that they've opened up the world. I cannot wait to see what is in the next one. So excited, cannot tell you. And yeah, just I started this series for Pride. Like, I wanted to do it for Pride Month, and like I'm really glad I did. So I hope you enjoyed it. It's probably been releasing well after that point, but you know what? Like, more love in the world, more acceptance, and like I think that's beautiful. So good luck, whoever you are. If you made it this far, make sure you subscribed. I hope that you have a good time. God, this one's been a long episode. Look, I had a great time. I hope you had a great time. Have a good night. And I will see you in the next episode. Bye-bye. Bye.